Richard Bennett stood at the large window of his luxurious office, overlooking the sprawling estate that had taken him decades to build. The sun was setting over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the perfectly manicured lawns and vibrant gardens. Despite the beauty of the scene before him, Richard's thoughts were far from serene. His only daughter, Sofia, had recently been spiraling out of control, and he felt a sense of urgency to intervene. After the death of his beloved wife, Richard poured all his energy into raising Sofia. He believed that by providing her with a life of luxury and privilege, he could shield her from the harsh realities of the world. However, the more he tried to control her life, the more rebellious she became. Her grades at the prestigious university had plummeted, and she had developed a reckless attitude that left him feeling helpless and frustrated. Richard's longtime friend Eduardo had always expressed a desire for his son, Daniel, to marry Sofia. They had shared a friendship for over 30 years, and Eduardo believed that a union between their families would be beneficial. However, Richard had always respected Sofia's choices, allowing her to decide who she wanted to date. But now, with her recent behavior, he felt it was time to take action. After discussing his concerns with Eduardo, Richard devised a plan to teach Sofia a lesson. He would introduce Daniel as a humble gardener, someone who would work at their estate. Richard believed that this would not only humble Sofia, but also help her appreciate the value of hard work. If she refused to marry Daniel, he would enforce the ultimate punishment: complete disinheritance. Sofia returned home from the university one evening, her laughter echoing through the grand halls of the mansion. Richard watched as she entered, dressed in designer clothes, completely unaware of the storm brewing in her father's mind. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. "Sofia," Richard called out, his voice firm. She turned, a look of annoyance crossing her face as she walked toward him. "We need to talk." Sofia crossed her arms, rolling her eyes. "What is it, Dad? I'm not in the mood for another lecture." Richard's expression hardened. "This isn't a lecture. It's about your future, and I'm not going to stand by and watch you throw it away. Your grades are terrible, and your behavior is unacceptable. I have decided that you will marry Daniel." Sofia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Daniel, the gardener? Are you serious?" "Yes," Richard replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This is for your own good. You need to learn responsibility, and he will teach you that. The wedding will be in 2 days." "You're insane," Sofia shouted, her frustration boiling over. "You can't just force me to marry someone I don't even know." Richard remained unyielding. "You will learn to appreciate what you have, Sofia. If you refuse, you will face the consequences." Sofia stormed out of the room, her heart racing with anger and confusion. Richard watched her go, resolute in his decision. He believed that this punishment would ultimately save her from herself, even if she couldn't see it yet. Little did he know that the real lesson would come not from control, but from the unexpected connection that would form between Sofia and Daniel in the days to come. The morning sun poured through the grand windows of Richard's office, illuminating the stacks of papers that cluttered his desk. He sat back in his leather chair, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He had made a promise to himself to protect Sofia at all costs, but the lengths he was willing to go had surprised even him. This marriage to Daniel was not just a punishment. It was a strategy to reshape his daughter's future. Richard had known Daniel since the boy was just a child, and he remembered how he admired Eduardo's work ethic and ambition. Daniel was everything Richard wanted for Sofia: disciplined, hardworking, and with a bright future ahead in their family's business. Yet, he felt a nagging doubt. Would forcing them together really solve the problem, or would it only create resentment? That evening, Richard met Eduardo for dinner at their favorite restaurant. As they sipped on aged red wine, Richard laid out his plan. "Eduardo, I need your help," he began, his voice low. "Sofia is out of control, and I think it's time we put our families together in a way that will benefit both of us." Eduardo raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" "I want Daniel to work for us, but I need him to play a different role, One that Sofia won't expect, Richard replied. She needs to learn the value of hard work and discipline. If we present Daniel as just a gardener, it could change everything. Eduardo chuckled, shaking his head. You really think that will work? Sofia is sharp. She'll figure it out. Richard leaned forward, his eyes intense. She may be sharp, but she's also spoiled. She needs a wake-up call. If we do this right, she might just fall for him. Imagine the possibilities. Eduardo considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I'll support you. Daniel is a good kid. He'll handle it well. But if this backfires, it's on you, my friend. The following day, Richard put his plan into action. He called Daniel to his office and explained the situation without revealing his true identity. I need a favor, Daniel. I want you to work at the estate for a while. Help with the gardens, but keep a low profile. I believe this could be beneficial for both you and Sofia. Daniel frowned, clearly confused. You want me to work as a gardener, but I have responsibilities at home. Richard waved his hand dismissively. Trust me, it's important. Just think of it as a temporary position. You'll be compensated well, and it might help you in the long run. After a moment of hesitation, Daniel agreed. If it's what you need, I'll do it. But I don't understand why you want me to hide who I am. Sometimes, to make someone see the truth, you have to change their perspective, Richard replied cryptically. This is a chance for you to show Sofia what hard work means. As Daniel began his new role, Richard felt a mix of anticipation and dread. He knew that while this plan could potentially save Sofia, it could also lead to unforeseen complications. The next few days were filled with tension as Richard watched Daniel integrate into their lives, all the while hoping that Sofia would not only accept but embrace the changes ahead. Meanwhile, Sofia remained blissfully unaware of her father's scheme. Caught up in her own world of rebellion and indifference, she felt the walls of her life closing in. Little did she know that her father's plan was about to change everything. The sun rose slowly over the Bennett estate, casting a warm glow over the sprawling gardens. Sofia strolled through the halls of the mansion, her mind wandering as she thought about her chaotic life. With each passing day, she felt increasingly suffocated by her father's expectations and the weight of her recent decisions. She had no idea that change was on the horizon. On the first day Daniel started working at the estate, Sofia was lounging by the pool, scrolling through her phone. She barely noticed when a new gardener arrived, dressed in simple clothes, looking out of place among the opulence surrounding them. His rugged charm and confident demeanor caught her eye, but she quickly dismissed it. Who was he? Anyway, just another worker in her father's empire. As she observed him from a distance, she noticed how he moved with purpose, tending to the flowers with a level of care she had rarely seen in the people around her. There was a dedication in his actions that intrigued her. After a while, her curiosity got the best of her, and she decided to approach him. Hey there, are you new? She asked, trying to sound casual as she leaned against the stone wall near the garden. Daniel looked up, his expression friendly but professional. Yes, ma'am. I just started today. I'm Daniel. Sofia raised an eyebrow, surprised by his straightforwardness. So, what's the deal? You really enjoy digging in the dirt, or is this just a job for you? Daniel chuckled softly. It's not just a job. It's something I take pride in. You'd be surprised how rewarding it can be to cultivate life from the ground up. Sofia was taken aback by his answer. Seriously? You don't mind getting your hands dirty? Don't you want more for yourself? Daniel paused, looking thoughtful. My family built our wealth through hard work, not by taking shortcuts. This, he gestured around the garden, is a part of that legacy. If I can contribute in any way, I will. His words resonated with Sofia. She had grown up surrounded by luxury but felt empty inside, as if she was missing the core values that made life truly meaningful. You're different from the guys I know at school, she admitted, surprising herself with the admission. They're all about parties and appearances. I've seen that world too. Daniel replied, his voice steady. But it's not where I find my fulfillment. If you can't appreciate what you have, then what's the point? Their conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in a long while, Sofia felt a connection to someone. It was refreshing to speak with someone who wasn't caught up in the superficiality of wealth. As the days went by, they continued to engage in conversations, discussing everything from their backgrounds to their dreams. Sofia found herself drawn to Daniel's perspective on life, intrigued by his work ethic and passion. Meanwhile, Richard watched from a distance, pleased to see Sofia engaging with Daniel, although he had yet to reveal Daniel's true identity. He hoped this would help Sofia realize the importance of hard work and commitment. But he also worried that the truth would shatter the fragile bond they were building. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Sofia mustered the courage to ask, "Why don't you go to college? You seem smart enough." Daniel paused, looking at her with a serious expression. "I believe in learning through experience. College is valuable, but it's not the only way to grow. I've learned more from working alongside my father than I ever could in a classroom." Sofia was struck by his insight. "I get that, but isn't there pressure to conform? Everyone expects you to follow a certain path." "Sometimes, the pressure is what leads us astray," Daniel replied. "Following your own path is far more rewarding, even if it's not what everyone else expects." Sofia felt a shift within her as Daniel's words sunk in. Perhaps this unexpected friendship was precisely what she needed to find her own direction amidst the chaos of her life. As the sun set on another day, she knew this relationship was only just beginning, but the journey ahead promised to be transformative. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Sofia and Daniel deepened. They spent countless hours working in the gardens, sharing stories and laughter as they tended to the flowers and plants. For Sofia, it was a welcome escape from the pressures of her privileged life. Daniel's down-to-earth nature provided her with a refreshing perspective, allowing her to see beyond the gilded cage in which she had been raised. One sunny afternoon, while they were planting new flowers in the garden, Sofia felt an unfamiliar flutter of excitement. She was starting to look forward to their conversations, drawn to Daniel's insights and his unwavering dedication to his work. "How did you get so good at this?" she asked, trying to hide her admiration behind a playful tone. Daniel smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Practice, mostly, and a genuine love for what I do. My father always said that if you enjoy your work, it won't feel like work at all." Sofia pondered his words. "That sounds nice, but I can't help but feel trapped in this life of luxury sometimes. Everyone expects me to be perfect, to follow the right path. It's exhausting." Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. "You don't have to be perfect for anyone else. What do you truly want for yourself, Sofia?" Her heart raced at the question. It was something she had been avoiding, grappling with the expectations imposed on her by her father and society. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been so focused on pleasing others that I forgot to think about what I want." Daniel nodded, his expression encouraging. "It's never too late to start. You have the power to define your own path, even if it feels daunting." As the days turned into evenings, their friendship blossoming into something more profound. Sofia found herself increasingly drawn to Daniel, not just for his intellect and work ethic, but for his kindness and the way he made her feel seen. She began to admire his humility, something she realized was rare among her peers. He didn't care about wealth or status. He cared about integrity and hard work. One evening, as they wrapped up their work for the day, Sofia sat on the edge of the garden bed, watching Daniel as he meticulously trimmed the hedges. "What's your dream?" she asked suddenly, the question spilling out before she could think twice. Daniel paused, looking up from his task. "Honestly, I want to take over my father's business one day, but not just a farming part. I want to implement sustainable practices and make a real difference in the community." Sofia's eyes widened. "That's ambitious, but why do you want to stay in the family business? You could do anything." "Because I believe in the work we do," he replied, his voice steady. It's not just about profits. It's about leaving a positive legacy. I want to ensure that the land we farm continues to flourish for generations to come. His passion ignited something within Sofia. She admired his vision and determination, realizing how different their lives had been shaped by their upbringing. Daniel's world was rooted in hard work and dedication, while hers had been filled with excess and expectations. As their conversations grew deeper, Sofia found herself wanting to explore more about Daniel's life and values. She began to question her own beliefs and choices, contemplating what her life could look like outside the confines of her father's expectations. The connection between them was undeniable, yet Daniel remained distant, treating Sofia as a friend rather than a potential romantic interest. There was a part of her that longed for more, but she was unsure if she was ready to cross that boundary. One late afternoon, as they sat side by side, taking a break from their work, Sofia turned to Daniel and said, "You know, I never thought I could find someone who understands me like you do. I feel free when I'm with you." Daniel's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw a flicker of something in his eyes. But before she could explore that feeling further, he simply smiled and replied, "I'm glad, Sofia. That's what friends are for." With those words, Sofia felt a pang of disappointment. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she knew their journey together was only just beginning, and perhaps in time, they would discover what lay ahead for both of them. As the days turned into weeks, Richard Bennett's plan began to unfold just as he had envisioned, with Daniel working diligently at the estate. Sofia found herself increasingly drawn to him, yet the impending wedding loomed over them like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over their growing friendship. Richard, eager to see his daughter embrace the arrangement, announced that the wedding would take place in just a few days. The news hit Sofia like a freight train. She felt a mix of disbelief and anger at her father's decision. How could he think that forcing her to marry someone she barely knew was a solution to her problems? That evening, as Sofia paced in her room, she couldn't shake the feeling of entrapment. She had grown to enjoy Daniel's company and appreciated his insights, but the idea of marrying him felt like a betrayal to the blossoming friendship they had built. What would happen to their connection once they were tied together by marriage? Would she lose the very thing she cherished? Determined to confront her father, Sofia stormed down the hallway to his office. Richard was seated behind his massive desk, poring over financial documents. His expression hardened as he looked up, sensing her agitation. "Sofia, this isn't the time for another one of your outbursts," he said, his voice firm. "But Dad, this isn't fair. I don't even know Daniel well enough to marry him," she exclaimed, her frustration boiling over. "You can't just dictate my life like this." Richard leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I'm doing this for your own good. You need to learn responsibility, and Daniel will help you with that." "Help me? By marrying him?" Sofia shook her head in disbelief. "I won't be able to just turn my feelings on and off like a light switch. This is my life we're talking about." Richard's expression softened slightly, but his resolve remained. "You'll see, Sofia. This is about making you realize the value of hard work and commitment. You've lost your way, and this marriage will set you back on the right path." Defeated, Sofia turned away, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. She had to find a way to make her father understand that this was not what she wanted. The thought of being married to someone who was practically a stranger terrified her. Yet, a small part of her couldn't deny the pull she felt toward Daniel. As the wedding day approached, Sofia tried to suppress her anxiety. She threw herself into preparations, though her heart wasn't in it. With every passing day, she grew closer to Daniel, and yet the thought of saying "I do" filled her with dread. On the day before the wedding, Daniel approached her in the garden, noticing her distracted demeanor. "Hey, are you okay? You seem a bit off," he said. Concern etched on his face. Sofia hesitated but decided to confide in him. "I'm not sure I'm ready for this. I feel like I'm being forced into something I don't want. It's all happening so fast." Daniel's expression softened. "I understand, This isn't an ideal situation for either of us. But you have a choice, Sofia. You can either embrace this as a new beginning or fight against it. His words struck a chord within her. Perhaps she could find a way to turn the situation around, to make it her own. What if I don't want to go through with it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked her in the eye, his gaze steady. Then don't. It's not too late to change your path. You deserve to choose who you want to be with, not just follow orders. Sofia felt a rush of hope. Maybe she could find a way to make this work. But what about my father? He won't understand. Sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in, even if it's difficult. If you follow your heart, you'll never regret your choices. As the sun began to set, Sofia contemplated Daniel's words. The weight of the impending wedding hung heavy on her shoulders, but for the first time, she felt a flicker of determination. She had to confront her father one last time before making a decision that could change everything. That night, as she lay in bed, Sofia knew she had a choice to make, one that could redefine her life and her future. The morning sun filtered through the elegant curtains of Sofia's bedroom, casting soft shadows on the walls. Today was the day before the wedding, and the reality of her situation felt suffocating. As she got out of bed, her mind raced with thoughts of what Daniel had said the night before. The idea of defying her father felt exhilarating, yet terrifying. After a restless night, Sofia gathered her courage and made her way to her father's office. Richard was on the phone, deep in conversation about business matters. But as he noticed her presence, he waved her in with a brief gesture. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest, and approached his desk. "Dad, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the anxiety swirling inside her. Richard raised an eyebrow, putting his phone down. "What is it, Sofia? I don't have much time. This wedding, I can't go through with it," she declared, her voice firm. "I feel trapped in a situation I didn't choose. I deserve a say in my own life." Richard's expression shifted from surprise to disappointment. "You're being childish. This is about more than you. It's about family legacy and responsibility. I understand that, but this is my future at stake," Sofia replied, frustration creeping into her tone. "I can't just marry someone because you decided it's what's best for me. I need to find my own path." Richard leaned forward, his gaze intense. "You don't know what's best for you, Sofia. You're still young and naive. Daniel may come from a good family, but he's just a gardener. He won't be able to give you the life you deserve." Sofia's heart sank at his words. "It's not about wealth, Dad. It's about finding someone who understands me, someone who shares my values. I have connected with Daniel in ways I've never connected with anyone else. He has taught me so much about hard work and dedication." Richard sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "You think this is a game? You're ruining your chance at a secure future. You will marry Daniel, whether you like it or not." "No, I won't," Sofia snapped, her resolve strengthening. "If I have to marry him, it won't be because I'm forced into it. I refuse to be unhappy for the rest of my life." The tension in the room hung thick, each moment feeling like an eternity. Richard's face turned red with anger. "You will regret this, Sofia. You're throwing away everything I've built for you." Sofia took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "Maybe it's time for me to build my own life. I can't keep living in your shadow. If that means walking away from this wedding, then so be it." With that, she turned on her heel and left the office, her heart pounding in her chest. As she stepped outside into the crisp morning air, a mix of fear and relief washed over her. For the first time, she had taken a stand for herself, and it felt empowering. Later that day, she sought out Daniel in the garden, her mind racing. "I talked to my father," she said, urgency lacing her words. "I can't marry you unless it's my choice." Daniel looked at her with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "Sofia, you don't have to do this for me. I'm not asking you to marry me under duress. It should be a mutual decision, not forced." "I know," she replied, her eyes locking onto his. But I can't let my father dictate my life anymore. I want to make my own choices, and I want to explore what this connection really is between us. Daniel smiled softly, and for a moment, hope blossomed in Sofia's heart. Then let's take it one step at a time. We can get to know each other better, without the pressure of a wedding hanging over us. Are you saying you'd wait? Sofia asked, her breath catching. If you promise to become a better version of yourself, someone who understands responsibility and appreciates what you have, I'd be willing to wait, Daniel replied, sincerity shining in his eyes. With his words, Sofia felt a new determination rising within her. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to embrace the challenge. As she stood there in the garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and the scent of fresh earth, she realized that this was just the beginning of her journey, a journey toward finding her true self. The sun rose brightly on the day Sofia had envisioned as the turning point of her life. Today, she would finally take control of her future. As she got ready, she couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and excitement coursing through her veins. The wedding that had loomed over her for weeks had transformed into a new opportunity for freedom. After a confrontation with her father, Sofia felt empowered. Daniel's willingness to support her journey towards self-improvement gave her a sense of hope. She had spent the morning reflecting on her past decisions and what she wanted for her future. The day stretched ahead of her like an uncharted path, filled with possibilities. Sofia found Daniel in the garden, working diligently. He seemed in his element, moving gracefully among the flowers and plants. There was something about his dedication that inspired her. She approached him, her heart pounding. "Hey, Daniel," she called out, her voice slightly nervous. He looked up, a smile spreading across his face. "Morning, Sofia. Ready for a new day?" "Yeah, I think so," she replied, gathering her thoughts. "I wanted to talk to you about our arrangement." Daniel straightened up, wiping his hands on his pants. "What's on your mind?" "I've decided I want to focus on becoming a better person. I want to learn about responsibility and find out what I truly value in life," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "And I want you to be a part of that journey." His expression softened and he nodded. "That's great to hear. It's all about growth, and I'd be happy to help however I can." Over the next few weeks, they began to spend more time together. Daniel introduced her to his world, one that thrived on hard work, integrity, and dedication. He took her on small excursions to the local farmers market, teaching her about sustainable practices and the importance of supporting local businesses. Sofia felt invigorated by the experience, and she quickly realized that there was much more to life than the glitter and glamour of her former existence. During one visit to the market, Sofia found herself chatting with the vendors, learning about their struggles and triumphs. "You know, Daniel, I never realized how rewarding this could be," she remarked, her eyes lighting up. "There's something fulfilling about knowing where your food comes from and supporting the community." Daniel smiled, pleased with her newfound appreciation. "Exactly. It's about building connections and understanding the value of hard work. Your father's wealth comes from the labor and sacrifices of generations, and now you have the chance to honor that legacy." Sofia felt a warm glow of realization. "I think I'm starting to understand what you mean. I've been given so much, but I haven't appreciated it. It's time I changed that." As their friendship deepened, Sofia found herself developing feelings for Daniel. He was more than just a gardener. He was a mentor, a friend, and a source of inspiration. However, Daniel continued to maintain a distance, treating her with the respect of a colleague rather than a romantic interest. This left Sofia feeling both hopeful and frustrated. One evening, as they sat on the porch after a long day of work, Sofia decided to open up about her feelings. "Daniel, I know this might sound strange, but I've grown to care about you a lot during this time. You've made me see life differently, and I appreciate you for that." He looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Sofia, I care about you too, but we have to take things slowly. You're still figuring out who you want to be, and I don't want to complicate that." "I get it," she said, her heart sinking a little. "But I also believe that this journey doesn't have to be taken alone. We can support each other, can't we?" Daniel smiled softly, but there was a seriousness in his eyes. "Of course, I'll always be here for you. Just remember that real change takes time, and I want to be sure that what we build is strong and genuine." As the days turned into weeks, Sofia began to embrace her new identity. She worked hard in the garden alongside Daniel, and they formed a bond that went beyond friendship. She found herself happier than she had been in a long time. Yet, the lingering question remained. Would they ever take that leap together? The wedding that had once seemed like a prison was now a distant memory, replaced by the promise of a future built on mutual respect and understanding. As they continued to grow closer, Sofia knew that she had the power to shape her destiny, and perhaps, in time, that would include Daniel by her side, not just as a gardener but as an equal partner. As the weeks rolled by, Sofia felt as if she had been reborn. Her days were filled with meaningful work, laughter, and new friendships that blossomed in the community she once ignored. The flowers in the garden thrived under her care, just as she did, and with every new petal, she felt a little more alive. But the impending confrontation with her father weighed heavily on her mind. Richard had sensed a change in his daughter, and his frustration was palpable. He had grown increasingly discontented, believing that Sofia's connection with Daniel was nothing more than a rebellious phase. The thought of losing control over her filled him with a mix of anger and desperation. One evening, as Sofia and Daniel shared a quiet moment on the porch, watching the sun set over the vineyard, she turned to him, her heart racing. "I can't keep avoiding my father forever. I need to talk to him about my future, about us." Daniel nodded, his expression serious. "I understand, but you know he won't take this lightly. He's invested a lot in this plan." "I know," she replied, anxiety creeping into her voice. "But I can't keep living a lie. I've learned so much about myself, and I want to embrace that. I owe it to myself and to you." Daniel reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Whatever happens, remember that you have the power to choose. Stand firm in your beliefs and don't let him intimidate you. You've come so far already." Taking a deep breath, Sofia felt the weight of his words resonate within her. She had grown stronger, and she would confront her father on her own terms. The next day, she steeled herself and made her way to Richard's office, her heart pounding in her chest. Richard looked up as she entered, his expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "Sofia, I was busy. What is it now?" "Dad, we need to talk," she said, her voice unwavering. "About the wedding and about Daniel." He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I thought we had settled this. You're marrying him. End of story." "No, that's not how this works," she shot back, surprised at herself with her confidence. "I need you to listen. I've spent time with Daniel, and I've learned so much about hard work, dedication, and what it truly means to live. This isn't just a rebellion. It's my life." Richard's face flushed with anger. "You're throwing your future away for a gardener? He's beneath you, Sofia. You don't understand the consequences of this decision." "I do understand, Dad, and it's not about class or wealth for me anymore. It's about values. Daniel has shown me a world where hard work and integrity matter more than anything else. I don't want a life dictated by money and status." Richard stood up, his voice rising. "You're making a mistake. This is not just about you. It's about the legacy of our family. Do you want to throw all of that away?" "I want to create my own legacy," she replied, her voice steady. "One built on love, respect, and genuine happiness, not just appearances. If you can't support me in this, then I don't know what to say." The silence that followed felt heavy, and Sofia could see the conflict warring within her father. For the first time, she felt like she was standing on equal ground with him. The years of intimidation and control began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of empowerment. Richard's expression softened, though his frustration lingered. "You will regret this, Sofia. You think you know what you want, but you have no idea how hard life can be. Maybe, but I have to find out for myself, she said, determination in her eyes. I'm not afraid anymore. With that, Sofia turned and walked out of the office, leaving her father behind. As she stepped outside, a wave of relief washed over her. She had confronted her father, standing up for her beliefs. No matter the outcome, she felt liberated. Later that evening, she met Daniel in the garden, the stars beginning to twinkle overhead. I talked to my father, she said, a mix of anxiety and excitement in her voice. I told him how I felt about everything. Daniel's eyes lit up with hope. What did he say? Sofia shrugged, a smile creeping onto her face. He wasn't pleased, but I stood my ground. I think he finally understands that I'm not the same girl he used to control. I'm ready to choose my own path. Daniel stepped closer, his expression warm. I'm proud of you, Sofia. That took a lot of courage. Sofia felt a rush of emotion as she looked into his eyes, realizing that the connection between them had grown deeper. Whatever lay ahead, she knew they would face it together. The journey to self-discovery was only beginning, but for the first time, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. The days following Sofia's confrontation with her father were tense but transformative. Richard had not spoken much since their heated exchange, retreating into his office and leaving Sofia to contemplate what the future held. For Sofia, the decision was clear. She would no longer let her life be controlled by the expectations of wealth and status. But that clarity didn't erase the uncertainty she felt about what would come next. As the wedding date grew closer, Sofia found herself increasingly introspective. She had grown closer to Daniel in ways she hadn't expected, not just through their shared work in the gardens, but through their conversations that delved into deeper values: family, legacy, and responsibility. Though their relationship had started as a forced arrangement, there was no denying the genuine connection that had blossomed between them. But still, Sofia couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She needed to know if Daniel truly saw her as an equal partner, or if he was still fulfilling the duty his father had placed on him. One evening, just days before the scheduled wedding, Sofia decided to confront Daniel. She found him in the garden as usual, trimming the hedges with meticulous care. The sight of him working, as always, brought her comfort, but she knew this conversation needed to happen. Daniel, she called softly, walking towards him. We need to talk. He looked up from his work, wiping his hands on a cloth. His expression, always calm and steady, shifted slightly to one of curiosity. What's on your mind? Sofia hesitated, her heart racing as she tried to find the right words. I know we've been getting closer, and I've learned a lot from you, but I can't go into this wedding with doubts. I need to know how you really feel. Daniel paused, setting his tools down. What do you mean? Do you really want this? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Or are you just going along with it because of the arrangement our fathers made? His face softened as he approached her, his gaze unwavering. Sofia, I won't lie to you. At first, this was just an arrangement for me. I saw it as a responsibility, a way to honor my family and do what was expected of me. But things have changed. Sofia's breath caught in her throat. Change how? Daniel took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. I've come to respect you, admire you even. You've grown so much in these past months, and you've proven that you're more than just a wealthy girl living off her father's success. You've embraced hard work. You've stood up for yourself, and I can see that you want more from life. But Sofia felt a pang of anxiety as she waited for him to continue. But what? But I still need to know if you're doing this for the right reasons. I need to know if you're committed to this, not just because it's what's expected, but because it's what you want. I've been given the choice to walk away if I feel you're not ready to be a true partner, and I'm not going to marry someone just because it's convenient. His words hit Sofia like a wave of cold water. She hadn't expected him to have doubts of his own. You're saying you don't think I'm ready? She asked, her voice quiet, almost fragile. Daniel shook his head gently. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that I want to make sure we're both ready. Marriage isn't just about sharing a life together. It's about building something bigger, something lasting. I need to be sure that you understand the weight of that. Sofia felt tears prick the corners of her eyes, but she held them back. She hadn't anticipated Daniel turning the question on her. For so long, she had been focused on proving herself to her father that she hadn't fully considered what this marriage truly meant for her future. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I'm trying to be better, to learn and grow. But I don't know if I'm ready to be the kind of woman you're looking for." Daniel smiled softly, his hand reaching out to gently tilt her chin up so she could meet his gaze. "I don't expect you to be perfect, Sofia. I just need to know that you're willing to put in the effort, that you're ready to build something real with me. Not just because our fathers want it, but because you want it too." Sofia's heart swelled with emotion as she looked into his eyes. For the first time, she realized that this wasn't just about proving something to her father or fulfilling a duty. This was about choosing a future with someone who truly respected her, someone who saw her potential and wanted to grow with her. "I do want that," she said, her voice stronger now. "I want to be someone you can rely on, someone who can build a life with you, not just because I have to, but because I choose to." Daniel's smile grew wider, and he gently pulled her into his arms. That's all I needed to hear. For a moment, they stood in silence, holding each other as the soft breeze rustled the leaves around them. Sofia felt a sense of peace wash over her, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. Later that evening, as they sat under the stars, Sofia felt a new sense of clarity. The wedding was no longer a looming obligation, but an opportunity for a new beginning. She knew that she still had much to learn, and that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but with Daniel by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges life would bring. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a beautiful backdrop for what was supposed to be a momentous occasion. However, for Sofia, it felt more like a fresh start than a culmination of her struggles. As she prepared for the ceremony, her heart raced with anticipation and excitement. But this time it was not just about the wedding. It was about the commitment she was making to herself and to Daniel. In the quiet of her room, Sofia looked at her reflection in the mirror. She wore a simple but elegant dress that perfectly captured her newfound sense of self. It was a far cry from the lavish gown she once imagined, but it felt authentic, just like the person she had become. "This is who I am," she whispered to herself, a smile spreading across her face. Daniel waited for her at the small altar they had set up in the garden, the same place where they had shared countless conversations about their hopes and dreams. The setting was intimate, surrounded by blooming flowers and the gentle sounds of nature. It was a stark contrast to the extravagant wedding her father had planned, but Sofia wouldn't have it any other way. As she stepped outside, a wave of calm washed over her. The familiar scent of jasmine filled the air, mingling with the sounds of birds chirping and the rustle of leaves. This was where she felt at home, among the plants and flowers that she had come to love. Daniel looked up, his eyes lighting up at the sight of her. His face radiated warmth and sincerity, and in that moment, all her doubts faded away. "Sofia," he said softly, walking towards her, "you look beautiful." "Thank you, Daniel. I feel ready for this," she replied, her heart swelling with determination. "Not just for us, but for everything this represents." The officiant, a kind woman from the local community, smiled warmly as they took their places. Sofia could feel the anticipation building as she and Daniel faced each other, ready to exchange vows that meant something profound. This was not just about marrying someone. It was about standing together as equals, embracing the challenges ahead. "Sofia," the officiant began, her voice gentle but clear, "do you take Daniel to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and cherish, in good times and in bad, for as long as you both shall live?" Sofia looked into Daniel's eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. "I do," she said, her voice steady. "I choose you, not just as my husband, but as my partner in every aspect of life." "And Daniel," the officiant continued, Do you take Sofia to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish, in good times and in bad, for as long as you both shall live? Daniel nodded, his gaze unwavering. I do. I choose you, Sofia, for your strength, your passion, and your willingness to grow. Together, we will build a life grounded in love and respect. As they exchanged rings, Sofia felt a rush of emotion. Each ring represented not just a promise, but a commitment to support each other through whatever life would bring. It was a powerful moment, and she couldn't help but think of how far they had come together. With the final word spoken, the officiant declared them husband and wife. As Daniel leaned in to kiss her, the world around them faded away. It was just the two of them, in that moment, fully aware of the journey that lay ahead. After the ceremony, they gathered with a small group of friends and family in the garden to celebrate. Sofia noticed her father watching from a distance, a mix of pride and uncertainty in his eyes. She understood that their relationship would take time to heal, but she felt confident in her choices. Later in the evening, as they stood together beneath the stars, Sofia turned to Daniel. "Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself," she said softly. "I'm excited to see what our future holds." Daniel smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "We'll face it together, and I'll be right by your side. Remember, every step we take is a step towards our dreams." With those words, Sofia knew they were ready to embrace whatever life had in store for them. This was not the end of their journey. It was merely the beginning. Together, they would navigate the complexities of life, love, and the legacies they were destined to create. As the night wore on, Sofia felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. She had chosen her own path, and in doing so, she had found not just love, but also her true self. Hand in hand with Daniel, she stepped into the future, ready to face the world with hope and determination. Enjoyed the story? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next thrilling episode. See you in our next video. Take care.